Hello, world, and welcome to our podcast where two pals with totally different viewpoints and thoughts who really don't know much of anything fly by the seat of their pants, discussing news, politics, conspiracy theories, and much, much more. One's a genius, the other's an idiot. Or are they both idiots?
Or are they both geniuses?
You be the judge. Now, live from beautiful Central Florida, welcome to Political No Brainer. We're your host on your right, and always right, me, Zach. And to your left, and Lord only knows, it's Coach Trippi. What's up, Tripperoo?
Not a lot.
Trippi, we got a big show. We got some special guests. Both of them two-timers. You guys are two-timers. I love it.
True.
Two-timers. Now you got to compete with my wife because she's a 3 or 4-timer, but you'll catch up.
Back.
But we've got our crew on tonight. Derek Huzinga, live from Orlando, and Daniel Quijano, live from New Mexico. Burquese. I had to throw it in there. There we go.
You got to do it.
What's up, guys?
What's going on, bro?
Welcome to the big shoe. Thanks for coming on. Derek, welcome.
Thank you. Yeah, I didn't know where you were even from, Daniel. I thought you were local here.
I was. And we're thinking about going back, but currently I am in sunny-ish Albuquerque, New Mexico.
Don't get my hopes up. Teasing me like you're going to come back.
Yeah, if it was up to Vaughn, we would be there tomorrow.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Daniel, just a little background. Daniel and I have been friends since 2006. Right?
6 or 7, something like that.
Somewhere around
there.
Yeah.
Which means you're old. I'm not old.
You were just an infant when I met you. I was babysitting for your mom.
Yes. And that's where the inappropriate conduct began. Look for Zach in the Diddy files.
Fat bottom girls.
I don't want to have him repeat those comments after you just disclose that information.
Dude.
Oh boy.
This is why Daniel and I should have a show, because it would be just called Politically Inappropriate.
Yeah, overwhelmingly inappropriate. How to get canceled. Now we could just call it How to Get Canceled.
People are like, you guys met at church?
Yeah.
Show enough.
Introducing you as a pastor is usually like, oh, okay.
It's awesome. And then Derek and I met actually through his business, Turbo Tint of Orlando.
Yeah, you had to pay to
show us your tint.
You actually pay to meet me, Zach.
Yeah. Probably didn't pay enough. You should have charged him more.
But
yeah, for those of you guys
he's
who
gonna
don't
trust
know,
and believe for the next job I get done down there. Boy, howdy.
That's it. Or his slogan, we came up with a new slogan today. So it's, you got to come down to his shop where you can show him your tints.
That's right. Show us your tints.
Or he can show you his tints. I'm not
sure. Probably we're gonna do that. I don't know.
You're gonna do that
specifically, but probably we would do that after.
Somebody in the office will be showing you your tints. Okay.
And let me tell you what.
I do have females who work for me, Daniel, so we have to be extremely careful.
Okay, just let people speak for themselves, I guess, is the way this needs to go.
Absolutely.
But I will say
I'll show mine.
We got both of our cars, which we no longer have, tinted, and phenomenal job. I've seen tint on cars where it's just, you think it's going to be a good job, and then a month later it's bubbled up and it's garbage. And now he offers other services like ceramic, and they clay your car and all that good stuff. So
really,
it's the one-stop shop for your car needs.
Oh yeah.
Now, back in the 80s and 90s, you would have had radios and alarm systems and beepers.
Well, the franchise prior to rebranding did have that, but the way the 12 volt has gone to the manufacturer, the reason why tint, besides the development and material, became so popular is because tint is an intra state regulated thing. So it's different for every state, right?
Correct.
Vehicle manufacturing is nationwide. You see privacy glass on the back of an SUV or a truck. That's fine, but you can't like as you know, you go up to Jersey, if you have 15% down here, they won't pull you over for that, even if it's slightly below. But up there, I mean, you're going to get an inspection every year. So it's so completely different that it's protected with the red tape. So that's what makes it like a popular, I think that's what keeps it alive and keeps it out of the manufacturing hand, although dealerships like to try to take over as much as they can too.
Yeah, so down here they do what they call a bump sticker. They put tint on and undercoating and all that other stuff, which is all baloney. But
Some of it is, yeah. Sometimes it is. It's quite surprising how many people say they got sold like a $1,200 ceramic coating. They bring their car, and I'm like, I put a rag on. I'm like, there's nothing on this.
my
There's nothing
cousin,
on this.
Really?
Yeah. So or maybe it's just like a sport wax, like a 6 month, kind of a ceramic wax type of spray that'll pretty much be gone here in a few months, and it's sold as like a true ceramic coating that where it's had paint correction and graphene 9H layers put over it for 4, 5, 6 years. It's you have a little bit of that going on, but Zach, you know where you got your cars last. I won't say, but that's someone down the road from us, at least that brand who used to actually outsource, who now actually mandates that. I think it's 93% of their vehicles leave with some type of aftermarket service, tint,
yes,
wrap, vinyl, whatever, all the things we have. It's and that's how they grow. So
Ramp up the profits.
it's
yeah,
pure
Probably
profit. I
ramp
think
up the
you should get
profit.
your
it's
head
vicious.
ceramic waxed, Daniel.
How is
Yeah.
business though? How is it now? Is it
So
still
so so March through July was record after record after record after record. I've been in the business in this shop 2.5 years. Those are the first time I made profit. 2 years in, finally, April,
Wow.
March, April, May, June, July, and then August came, and the weather in Florida, this has been weird, man. I know I'm not like a native here, but this year's been weird. Remember, we had a really cold and slow winter, and then we got into summer and we didn't get like that 2 months of burning heat without the rain. We just went straight into like monsoon, and it wasn't a 2 hour each afternoon. It was like all afternoon, a 2 hour break, and then all night nonstop. So you had that. Of course, you have your political, economical things going on, your externals, right? An election, people are getting nervous. You've got record credit card debt for consumers, and so our business isn't. Although in Florida it's kind of closer to an essential, it's still not, right? It's still discretionary income. Um, and
Yeah,
then you
but
had
you got to have
you
teeth
had a
in
lack of
Florida.
deliveries at the dealerships too. So you had a lack of inventory in August. So August is supposed to be our second best month of the year. So far this year, it was our second worst, and then
huh,
September was the same. So it's been
Wow.
the last 2 months have been pretty devastating, if I want to say a word to describe it, and they shouldn't be. The months that are typically really tough can be like kind of mid to late October through a couple weeks in November, maybe a week in December, and then some of January, some of February. So you're supposed to go into those months very strong. When you go into them very weak financially, no matter who you are, and especially with us with a high overhead, high volume shop, it gets very difficult. So it's been very tough, and it's forced me to do other things. So
so, let's
so
just
be
get
it.
right to it.
Well,
Yep.
hold on. I got a quick question. Daniel, as a business owner, what have you seen in the economic world of the housing market?
Yeah, it's tough, right? Because I work in the real estate world and I don't think we're seeing that yet, right? At least on the side that I do. I know interest rates on the mortgage lending side are about to come down, right?
Hmm.
Supposedly, they're projecting. If that happens, that does have kind of a trickle down effect. But as far as what we do on our side, on the investing side, it I don't think we've really seen the change yet. I also have like a coaching program, right? Where I teach sales, I teach communication for people that are currently people that are in real estate, and I'll probably expand outside of that. I do notice for people who are interested, there's a lot of people who are interested in my program who don't have the money, right? So on the consumer side, you see that, and obviously with any of these things, there's kind of like a trickle down effect. It starts and then it impacts. Obviously, these last couple days have been really, really interesting. Um, so it'll be fun to see, right? I've predicted for a while on our show. I really think things are going to get bad before they get anything else, like maybe really bad. And I don't know if this is a birthing pain of that we're seeing now, or if this is the beginning of it. But I think interesting times are ahead for sure.
Do you think in the market you're in as an investor that you're going to start seeing a lot of people trying to short sell their houses and get out because they know they're about to be underwater?
Um, I don't know. I really don't know what's going to happen, and I don't want to predict. I mean, I just nobody has a crystal ball, and especially when you're dealing with real estate, you really don't know what's going to happen. You can guess, but if the economy continues to do what it looks like it may do, then the question becomes number one is, are there going to be some sort of subsidies that protect people from getting foreclosed on? If there are, that creates a conversation because then there's going to be a slew of people who don't who won't qualify for that. So I have a program I'm thinking about putting together, teaching people how to talk to sellers who are potentially facing pre-foreclosure. And anytime you're calling those people, they're by definition avoiding the phone calls. They're in denial. They're pretending it doesn't happen. They're not dealing with it. I have a seller that somebody brought me. They said, "Hey, I need help with this situation. Can you reach out to them?" They had an auction that was scheduled for this last Saturday, but because of the hurricane, they pushed it back to this coming Saturday. St. Pete is where the deal is. The house
They might be
was
literally underwater.
actually right. So I think for this particular house, they were okay, but the all of the bridges and the roads were blocked, so they couldn't really get out there. So situation is this was a probate, so they inherited this property and then apparently inherited some debt with it. Now it's in the point where it's about to be put into foreclosure. I reached out to them because the person that brought me the deal didn't really know what to do with it. They didn't know how to navigate the conversation. I reached out to this person, had somebody in my community reach out to them, who lives in Miami, does a lot of stuff with pre-foreclosures. They can stop an auction in an hour, right? Like they can really get stuff done. So I called, he called, person's under this illusion that they're in a position of control. They're like, "Oh, submit your highest and best offer. We'll get back to you with what we think is going to be okay." So working in this business, I'm like, but that doesn't make any sense to me. Like, why are you're about to get auctioned by the bank and you think you have the luxury of the time to be able to wait for someone to submit you their highest and best? That's not really how this works. So I talked to the agent with what's the professional term for this? He's a douchebag. I think that's the industry term. Guy's a complete tool, right? Like, the guy was just a complete douche. It's the best way to describe him. And he just had this air of arrogance about him, like he was doing me the favor by even gracing me with answering the call. And I said, "So I understand this is the situation. I understand this is what you're dealing with. It sounds like you guys have an actual bank auction that you're trying to beat by doing like an in-person auction." And he said, "Yeah, we're doing this, we're doing that." I said, "Okay. I mean, I guess in theory, I can see how that sounds like a good idea. But what happens if nobody shows up to your make-believe auction and buys the house for more than what's owed?" He's like, "Well, that's not going to happen." I was like, "Well, you actually don't know if that's going to happen or not, right? What happens if that happens?" And his response essentially was, "Well, then we're going to do something else. We're going to short sale the house," which essentially means that the seller's getting absolutely nothing. When I said, "Okay, this sounds like I mean, okay, I hear you. What if I could help so at least we can put some money in their pocket?" He hangs up on me. Immediately hangs up on me, right? uh, and this is what you're dealing with. So what's the point? When these things start to happen, you get all kinds of people with funny ideas and the marketplace gets really crazy. So the short answer to your question is I don't know. The longer answer is that I think once this thing starts rolling, it's going to be really interesting to see all of the information that goes out there, the misinformation that goes out there, and the people that are negatively impacted. Hopefully we can get in there and help.
So now I love what you guys are telling me, but let me question both of you one at a time. So for example, Derek, you're in a business, like you said, now one particular dealership has taken over about 93% of the aftermarket purchases. And I actually read years ago, not years ago, but 4 or 5 years ago, Warren Buffett bought O'Toole's dealership, was about 90 car dealerships. And one of the things that changed under his ownership was they were taking over the aftermarket sales. So I think that's a trend in the auto industry. And I understand you're saying people have record high credit card debt and that's affecting your business. But is the fact that dealerships are taking over, they're seeing the opportunity and taking over these aftermarket sales? That's because we keep blaming things on the economy, and I
Oh,
keep,
I'm not blaming it on them at all, actually. So
yeah.
so let's get the statement correct. It's a little bit off what you said. What I said is that their internal metric is to deliver 93% of their vehicles with an aftermarket product. I did not say that they're taking 93% of my market.
Okay,
Then I
so
would then I'd be like, dude, sorry guys, I got to work right now. I can't talk.
Yeah.
Right. So just I want to get that straight first. It's not
okay,
that's probably the least of my concern. Now, the fact that there was not inventory or a lot of deliveries last month from dealerships does affect our market because a lot of people doesn't matter if the dealerships sell it to them or not. They know where they want to go. And we've got a great reputation. And I don't say great, sort of great, like one of the best elite, whatever, in an oversaturated, overcompetitive, crazy, hyper competitive market. Okay. So I don't think that's an issue. But was that the extent of your point? Just the
no,
externals?
not at all. I
Sure.
see. I just not at all. I just do see where big business, is taking over a lot of opportunity, and
Sure,
that
because we
that
talked
was
about
me
that
trying to
last
make my
time.
point. But and maybe I misunderstood, and I apologize for that.
No, it's
But
fine.
um, then there was coming from Daniel, the institutional buyers. Are they buying up the homes now? Are they? Is that the new thing?
No, that's not the new thing.
Because
They stopped. So institutional buyers were heavy pandemic, post-pandemic. I wholesale deals to those guys, right? Like it was very, very common to send deals to them because they would pay some stuff for a while there. They were overpaying. It was easy to crack 50 grand on a deal, a couple times a week just because they were just buying up everything. I still know people that worked for some of these hedge funds, right? Institutional guys. And I mean, after the crash, like when things started changing in the market and the interest rates started going up, they weren't buying anything. They got laid off. I think the one guy I know happens to have saved his job. He is in a completely different role now. He doesn't do acquisitions anymore. So no, I don't think there's really any institutional buying right now. I think if things continue on the direction we are, we may see it pick back up.
What's the rumor I hear that BlackRock wants to buy all the houses?
I mean, they have been.
They have
Right, but
half of
they
them, don't
supposedly they
they?
want to buy every
Yeah,
house in America they can.
it wouldn't surprise me. It
and
wouldn't.
then
I
That's
mean,
there's a
where
movement.
did
Then
you see
there's
Zach? Zach, where did you see that? I saw that too somewhere, and I don't know. I'm not saying
It
I'm
was
not
on a.
giving legitimacy to the source,
I'm
but
not
I
either.
saw
I don't remember. It
I
was a
read it
business
that
article
they're
somewhere.
I read that they were like maybe 44, 45%,
right.
and the goal was all of it by 2030 or whatever that number may have been.
So what's their point? Do they want to just make every American rent?
own nothing and be happy.
Yep.
Right. So we're back to the institutional buyers, though. And then there's also a movement I've seen in California where they've streamlined the laws where you can repurpose commercial buildings that are going underwater. So and it's easier to get the permits. So office buildings
So
are
you mean
turning
repurpose
small.
by like rezone it so it can be
No, like
instead of
like an office
commercial?
building that's completely vacant because people are working from home are
Right.
turning into small rentals.
Right. That's what I'm saying. They're going
And
to change the
yeah.
zone from commercial to a housing project.
So I'm just alluding to where are I know, and I know where I believe I know where you guys stand on the economy. I just getting to my question, just say Donald Trump wins the election. You guys really think the economy is just going to get significantly better from that point forward?
I
Do you
think too.
guys really think?
I think. Sorry, Dan. I'll just say something real short and then cut it to you, and
Go
we
ahead,
keep
man.
going. But I think the two things that will happen immediately is you'll have a spike in consumer confidence. Okay, because and that's a subjective thing, Trippy. So I'm not saying that
No,
you know.
no, I want to hear your
But
opinions.
if you wake up on November 6th and God, no, okay, let's say December 6th, and you say, "Hey, Trump's the president," I think you would get a consumer confidence or whatever the index is. I think you'd get a spike in that temporarily, whatever it may be. Okay, so I think that would happen just because, I think disagreements aside, there's a probably somewhat of a majority that is believes that the economic policies of Trump are more effective or have more belief in it. I mean, that's just polling data, whatever you want to call it. I believe that would happen right away. Now, as far as the other stuff that happens, like we had a half point interest rate cut, Daniel knows this, and we just kind of touched on it, but that's going to take a while to even see that in the housing market, right? And then we might get another half or three-quarter point cut. We're going to at the end of the year, okay? So again, those are positive things, but they take a long time. I do believe that there's policies that Trump has that over time and right away will make a positive impact, but I can't say what that's going to do in terms of government size, money printing, inflation, all that type of stuff, right? I mean, let's be real. The issue is inflation, right? Too much money, too big of government. So it doesn't matter who you put in office, and I'm voting Trump, okay? But whoever you put in office, if you don't slim that down and don't trim that back, you just have more taxpayer dollars feeding a larger machine that doesn't produce an efficient output or service or product. And it's just it costs more for everything, and it always will. So we can get into that later if you want to talk specific things that I think he'll do that'll make a good positive impact with world peace, economics, cost of energy, logistics, cost of food, all those things that I think will be positive things. And I think immediately you would get at least a subjective boost, and then the other things would probably trickle in over the course of a year or two. But that doesn't mean with the nation being $1.4 trillion in credit card debt that we're not going to go through that bad time. Like Daniel said, I mean, everyone's at the end of the line. So
and
how do
I
you
see.
save them at the end of the line? You just said it. You said it with the home bailout thing. Give people uh what do you call it? A subsidy, to keep your home. Well, that's great now, but we saw it with COVID. That was great now, but when it runs out and when you printed that money, it just continues to build the problem. So sometimes it won't get better till you go through that period, regardless of what happens in November. I hope
So
it doesn't. I really hope it doesn't, and I really do have faith in it, but be real too.
So Daniel, the same question applies to you. Just say November 6th, or like Derek said, December 6th. I don't know when the final outcome will be determined. And Trump becomes president. Do you see this windfall of economic success moving forward? Not necessarily December 7th or whatever we agree will be the
Sure.
actual.
No, I don't. I agree, however, with Derek's summary. Like I don't actually say anything logically incorrect about anything he said. I wonder, however, two things. One, how deep are we really in the hole to even hope for this, right? Like the ramifications, like does the piper have to get paid at some point? And I feel like we're kind of starting to feel that squeeze. And I just think that that has to happen regardless. Secondarily, what has happened behind the scenes? Forget what we're seeing. In addition, what's happened behind the scenes to our economy, right? There's the whole situation with the Ukraine, the money that's getting sent out there. We don't have enough money to be able to support the people that are dealing with the flooding from the most recent hurricane, right? There's these things are piling up. My assertion, I've said this on my show too. Here's what I think happens. I think that if Trump gets into office, I think we have, I don't know, somewhere within the next 18 months, a really, really tough time where all of this stuff comes together. And I think that he does some things to fix it. And I think we go through this period of time and then they're going to use this to say negative things about him. But at the end of the day, who cares, right? He can't run again anyways. And then we come out of it, things get good. He makes up for lost time and then we're on to the next election. I think it's very unlikely that somebody not under the establishment control is ever president again. I genuinely think an uncontrolled person. I don't know that I see anybody other than Trump with the backbone today to stand up and fight that. So I think it's likely that whoever comes after Trump, if Trump wins, is establishment. And I think we're just done after that. This is a very bleak outlook. I hate to say it. I genuinely hope I'm wrong. I really hope I'm wrong.
I'll put one positive interjection in that, Daniel, and I truly believe this is why Trump chose Vance as his running mate. Because if he wanted a complementary running mate to kind of win some of that independent vote, he would have done Tim Scott, right?
Yep.
He's a conservative black senator, wonderful guy out of very charismatic South Carolina. Pick JD Vance, okay, or he might have picked Vivek even Tulsi or Nikki Haley, something like that. It would have been a better complement to get some of those undecided, independent, or I
Sure.
hate Trump votes. Maybe.
I really thought it was going to be Tulsi. So yeah, I hear what you're saying.
I
Right.
actually thought it was going to be
So,
that the governor
so
was
when
a
he picked Vance, I
meat
think
potato.
everyone kind of had like, what, I love Vance. He's he's very intellectual, great debater, keeps his mind on straight, doesn't lose his
Yep.
cool, agree with his philosophy, but you're almost like, well, that's a mini me, right? Why are you doing that? It doesn't complement, it doesn't cross over. It's my firm belief that he's put there because he's if needed, he's the replacement,
And
right?
you know what? If that is the reality, I've heard other people suggest that. That's a ray of hope. I think that's a ray of hope.
Yep.
The one thing that makes me question that is the fact that this guy was so vehemently against Trump
Mm-hmm.
when all of the cool kids in class were against Trump. That
Right.
either makes me
He
believe
called
that
Trump
you're
Hitler.
Yep.
correct. So either one of two things. That tells me one of two things. Now, I could be wrong in both of these, but what that tells me is one, you're weak and you just wanted to be popular, or two, you're on that team and now you switched up when it was convenient. Those two things for me are not good signs, but I don't know what I don't know. And if what you're saying, Derek, what you're saying makes sense to me, I've heard people suggest that. That for me gives me hope. I think if the left wins, I don't. I think we got less than 5 years of our country being a country.
Let
Right?
me
That's just
add
my opinion.
this. Let me add this one thing though about Vance. How many politicians last night would have given an honest, direct response answer to being asked that besides him? I don't see it. I don't
Agreed.
see it from anyone. Even Trump, right? Whenever he's asked a question, he might go over the policies, but the way he always has to paint it, right? It's always a showboat imagery, whatever it may be. How many people do you know answer questions like Vivek or JD, right? Where it's like,
Yeah.
hey, tell me this. Okay, I might preclude with this for 30 seconds, but here's the answer. Here's the answer. Here's why I said that. That was a mistake. This is my correction. The fact that he's capable of doing that gives me hope. Because
Well,
how many people do you get sick of answering answering the questions with questions, right? I saw a funny meme today. My wife sent it to me, and it was Cain dragging off Abel from the Bible, and God saying, "Cain, where's Abel?" And I sent it to you, Zach, didn't I? And
Yeah.
then Cain goes, "Well, see, I was raised in a middle class family."
I rode bikes.
Right? So that's my point. Like, how many people, even Trump included sometime, how many people, how many politicians answer like that? All of them. All of them. And you have
Yep.
a guy now in a position of public spotlight who can answer a damn question. And that's nice, okay? So whatever he may be, real, fake, at least he can answer a question. If you can answer a question, at least I know where you stand in the moment, because if I looked at any type of answer from Kamala's debate or interview, I have no clue where she stands. Nor does anyone. Anyone who says that's full of crap, go just rewind 30, 40 years to watching young Trump being interviewed about being president or being successful in his 30s and his 40s and 50s. His answers are consistent with today. It's almost eerie. It's creepy. Okay. So say
Yeah.
what you
well,
want
actually,
about that.
30, 40 years ago, one thing he did say was he would be a Democrat if he ran for president.
No,
Sure,
no, no,
sure.
no. He said I am a Democrat. I would be Republican because they're dumb and they'd vote for me.
I, my point is his policy and
I got no
viewpoint.
problem with that.
You can find consistency if you rewind back 5 years with Kamala. You don't know
Let
where
me
she's
point out
standing.
one inconsistency, though. When J.D. Vance was asked in the debate, did he support a national ban on abortion? He said he never supported a national. In the debate, he said he never supported. Now, there's numerous interviews that have been played back that says he supports a national ban, including when Donald Trump said, I don't know why he said that in the debate with Kamala Harris. So there was acknowledgement from Donald Trump that he said it.
Right.
So as far as now, here's what I'm going to now. Here's what I think, and I do feel the love, the three of you, and the love for Donald Trump, and I understand it. I never try to sway anybody's vote. I say vote your heart. People try to sway me. People try to convince me, and I say no. I'm going to vote my heart. There is no swaying me, and Zach really goes to the next level of it and says, "You're not even a Christian if you vote for Kamala." And I'm like, I don't know how this came into play, but okay, because
You
I
hate
can't.
Jesus.
But let me tell you something about
Well, he
Donald
is Jewish,
Trump,
so they did kill
J.D.
Jesus.
Vance, and Tim Walz. They all suffer from one thing. Prior to running for president, Donald Trump especially, all he had to ever do was convince people in a small room that he was the greatest. So if there was 30 investors and he said his building was 99% occupied, they looked at him like, how did you do it when everybody else is 70% occupied? Now they have to convince the nation. Now they have to convince the world. Now there's experts watching. And that's where all the discussion comes in is he said this and he said that, and the experts say this and the experts say that. It's different for all of them. So Tim Walz fumbled on something. They say he fumbled on the dates he was in Tiananmen Square. Maybe he was never there. But to make that an issue, when you know for a fact that Donald Trump has said numerous things left, right, and center, and to say Tim Walz just fumbled the ball terribly at the debate, I disagree. To say Tim Walz, as governor, signed off on legislation that took babies from mom's wombs and just sliced their head off like ISIS, it
They
never
never, they
happened.
didn't say
They've
that.
made it clear that that's literally, essentially what's happening under his watch.
I mean,
No,
And
just for the record, just for
they're
the
saying they're
record,
killing
go
babies
ahead,
after
Derek. Go
birth.
ahead.
I mean, granted, I was
as
doing
as someone who's not going to vote on the Waltz ticket, the date he was in Tiananmen Square, to me, I don't really care.
I don't either.
I
But
don't give a
that was
shit.
a point of ridicule, really. It's been said that JD Vance outperformed Tim Walz. I said yes. But then Zach today, when we talked, he's like, he wiped the floor with him. And I'm like, Zach, I'm reading the reviews. They're saying he outperformed and they were hoping for a much better performance from Tim Walz. But really, most were saying it was really a peaceful debate. It was two
No,
guys.
no, no. I said it
I
was
heard
very
It
several
was
times
peaceful.
boring, man. I fell
say,
asleep.
huh?
I
It
said
was
it was
boring.
very
They were
peaceful.
literally holding hands and singing "Kumbaya." And I want
I
to
wouldn't put it
say
that far, but it was peaceful, and Vance showed compassion, and he was very,
he's a passionate
but
young
he's
man.
but he's very, very eloquent. He's a great speaker. And I think that kind of baffled, because if you watch Walls, other than the fact that I think he's psychotic by his eyes, he looked like a deer in a headlight. He looked like he was lost. Like, I don't know how to respond to this, you know?
Well,
And
the one thing he did say, or Kamala Harris said in her interview with him, he said, "I'm not a good debater," to her privately. He's not a good debater. And I will be the first to admit, whilst JD Vance did a little better, but to say, and I know JD Vance is a good speaker. We all knew that. When you asked me initially when he picked JD Vance, I said for Donald Trump, that's a good fit. He needs to polish his approach some way, somehow. And apparently he can't do it personally. So he might as well hire some on his team that can help him along the way.
Wait, so Trippy, a quick question for you, man. Like, you made a comment, and I hate to generalize, right? Because Zach's more of a throw a bit the baby out with the bathwater guy than I am. I think people are individual; they can have their opinions.
it's
But
only my opinion. Just remember that.
correct, and
Thank you.
yes, that's just so everybody knows.
We're in
Um,
Zach's world now.
we're in Zach's world. There are unicorns, so that's a cool thing about it.
We ride them to
Um,
school.
so here's the thing, Trippy. Like, and I noticed this is a common thing with a particular side of the aisle. You just did it yourself. And it's almost like people have this involuntary reflex that their brain does not know how to answer a question without saying Donald Trump's name. It's like this weird thing. How'd you think this person did? Well, Donald Trump, he pooped and didn't wipe. It's like, bro, what are we talking about? Like, that's fantastic.
Him a lot of the time.
Sorry, he got a dirty ass crack. But the question is,
Wash your
regardless of what Donald Trump does in a debate, when you go to the question that the meme that Derek's talking about, he was asked about clearly lying. And this man's response was, I rode bikes as a kid. And goes on his whole thing, talk about something unrelated to the question. They ask him again, and he stutters through not really answering the question again. Forget Donald Trump, right? Forget anybody else. Are you okay with that clear and obvious attempt to lie or deflect the question?
Without using anybody's name, I've seen every politician do the same thing. So am I
Bro,
okay?
you doing the same. You asked her. You just said the same thing. You just left names out. I'm not asking you
I'm
if
okay with it.
everybody else does it. I'm asking you if you were okay with anybody doing it. Him being the example last night.
I'm okay with it because I think it's a rule of thumb. You don't get yourself boxed into a corner in a debate. You don't lose the debate. You may
So you're
lose.
okay being lied to, is what I'm hearing. I'm
I've
okay
been
if
lied
you
to
lied
by
my
every
face because everybody
politician.
does it.
I've been lied to by every politician I've ever voted for. So let me give you the list, and I'll make it short. I've been
Well,
lied
that's the
by
whole liberal side.
I've been lied to by Ronald Reagan. He
You didn't
promised.
you
He
didn't vote for
promised.
Reagan. You were in high school.
But if I could have voted, I would have voted. But he did promise, as candidate Reagan,
That was a
that he
Tim
would
Walz answer,
shut
guys.
down
Just
the
so we're
education
clear.
department, he would shut down the commerce department, and he would shut down the
Department
energy
of Education.
Department of Education, Commerce, and Energy. He promised that as candidate Reagan. And all three grew in size and scope on his watch.
And then he got shot.
And so when I watch Vivek talk about shutting down the IRS, the FBI, and I can't remember his list, I know it was a bold-faced lie. But would I have considered him as a candidate over Biden if he became the nominee? Yes. So to answer that question, I've been lied to by Obama, the person I thought was a good president. I'm not arguing the point because I think that would just go into a whole new rabbit hole that we don't have 3 days for. But he said he would shut down Guantanamo Bay. He did not shut down Guantanamo Bay. He treated it as a metaphor. He moved the prisoners to other parts of the world like Bali, and there's still prisoners that will never be tried because of the security concerns and the demand for disclosure. So he never shut down Guantanamo Bay. Am I okay with Obama? Yes. He promised he would pull out of Afghanistan, and he added 40,000 troops. But you know who did say and did what he said he would do? Is Biden.
Donald Trump.
Is Biden. He
You
pulled
said
out of
Donald Trump
Afghanistan.
wrong.
You spelled Trump wrong.
You definitely said Trump wrong.
But I can say Trump held his word on a lot of things, like pulling out of the Iran deal, and we're paying dearly for that. Iran is a runaway outlaw now.
Yeah,
And
they're about to get made into a Buc-ee's parking lot.
They're not.
You don't think
They're
Israel's
gonna
got more
submit.
power than
They're
them?
not. It's going to be an ugly situation.
They actually said today, Iraq said they don't want anything to do with it. And Iran said, we don't want war with Israel. We were just retaliating for what they did to Yemen.
Right. But here's my point on that. When the JCPOA joint peace agreement with Iran that Obama forged, and yes, they got money to sign the
Well, that's
agreement
because Obama's from over there somewhere.
somewhere. But when that agreement was forged, even Israeli Mossad said we had better control of Iran under that agreement than when it was silly for Trump to pull out of that agreement. But he kept his word. He pulled out of it. But the fact of the matter is, we're in a disastrous situation now because they have nothing to lose anymore, and they got everything they were offered on the agreement. So by Trump pulling out of it after they've been paid, was a promise he kept. But everybody said it was silly to keep that promise. He kept his promise on pulling out of the World Climate Agreement, and everybody said we were hitting the numbers. We had nothing to lose by staying in it. Our part of the agreement was fulfilled by natural corporate gentrification. It was the rest of the world that was had to keep up with the agreement. China was one of them. We were hitting our numbers according to the World Climate Agreement, and Trump pulled out of it. He kept his word.
China.
He said he would pull out of it, and he kept his word. And that's what people like about him. Presidents make promises they can't keep. Bill Clinton said he's going to have a Glock kosher kitchen when he's president. So what's he going to do? He's going to have Yasser Arafat over for dinner and serve him matzo ball soup. Everybody knew the whole thing was ridiculous, but he made that promise. So what am I dealing with? I'm dealing with crappy leaders in this country across the board.
Hold on. Let me ask you a question, man, because you said a lot, but for the sake of just like third grade math, reducing it to the lowest common denominator. My takeaway here is I'm not giving my opinion. I'm repeating back what you just said. Feel free to correct me where I'm wrong. Trippi sounds like he's comfortable being in an unhealthy, abusive relationship because everybody abuses him. Every single politician lies. Every single politician makes promises they don't keep, except for Donald Trump.
He didn't keep certain promises, but he did keep.
But he kept the majority of the ones that he sent out to keep.
Average politician, yes, but everybody said they were bad to keep them.
The only promise he let me down on was he was going to put Hillary in Guantanamo.
But that wasn't supposed to be there, so maybe I don't know. So here's an honest question, man. Like ramifications is a separate conversation. I've heard you talk about character. People talk about a character with Trump a lot. Do you not think that says something? Does that not register to you, at least in some fashion, that this is really, really interesting? As much as I want to say these negative things about this guy, out of the blue, he comes in. And regardless of whether it worked out, that's a separate conversation. He said he was going to do something. He made a promise, and he went out of his way to keep that promise, something 100% of politicians literally don't even try to do. And not only did he try, but he actually succeeded a lot. That doesn't say something to you?
I pointed out two promises he kept.
Correct.
But one promise he didn't keep, he was adamantly opposed to the vaccine. He was adamantly opposed to the vaccine. He was adamantly opposed to indoctrination of the vaccine. He developed the vaccine. He ordered the vaccine developed.
I'm not a big fan of that. But then the question that I ask is, did he have an alternative? Was it like if he had not, they would have had, right?
He made it clear that Democrats are idiots. They're handling the COVID thing all wrong. But he developed the vaccine. He signed the bill, the whatever, to invoke the War Powers Act to expedite a vaccine for COVID. So as far as, am I okay with lying politicians? No, I'm not. But what's going to change that is these kind of discussions. Not just saying, I'm going to vote for the guy that kept two promises that nobody thought he should keep.
But were you okay with the action he took in that circumstance? Because
I got the vaccine because I strongly believe in vaccines. I don't believe in making people have vaccines. If you're against the vaccine, don't get it.
I've gotten vaccinated my entire life, every year, flu shot. My mom's a registered nurse. Everything all happened, every round possible. It's the first time I didn't get it, including the flu shot, and that's just because of the way how it was handled
by the Democrats.
Okay, that was the emotional side, but the rational side, my age, my health, my activity, I got it 4 times anyway. So it's like, I'm to me, it's didn't make sense, right? So. But I wanted to ask too, and I don't know exactly where I heard Trump say this, but it might have been in one of the interviews in the last few months of the debate, but he actually did come out and say, hey, in regard to a lot of the stuff he wanted to do, he didn't realize going in, not being a part of, the bureaucracy, the political system prior to this time, he didn't realize how rooted these heads of department were, and how much power they hold in terms of just going, you just go and say, I'm gonna cut the Department of Education. Well, I think there's more to it than that, right?
Oh, there's I was just pointing out promises that were made that weren't kept.
I think he made a lot of promises out of ignorance too. I don't
Right.
think my point, okay, here, let's make my point really simple. I think he didn't keep promises out of ignorance more than intent,
Well, every politician faces that.
which means round two, I think, could be a little better. Not perfect. I don't think it'd be perfect at all. There's still forces at play that he can't touch. It's just
So
too.
are we ready to talk about round two? Because all I've heard from him, and we've said Kamala's been on vague on specifics. He's talking about tariffs. Economists say tariffs are destructive. Then he goes on to say, "Well, Biden kept the tariffs I put in place intact. Why didn't he repeal those tariffs?" And I've always said because we have a shortfall of money coming into Washington because of the $1.5 trillion tax cut he passed. That's got to be accounted for at some time. But now he's talking about more tariffs, and economists, not me personally, world-class economists, many of them have said tariffs result in inflation and are destructive for the economy. And he's made it clear 3 times, 4 times, 5 times now, 20% across the board on everything coming in the country. Every economic expert said that is going to be extremely destructive to the economy. So my concern when people say Trump's going to fix the economy, but I'm hearing actually, according to economists, Trump's going to drop a nuclear bomb on the economy because tariffs don't have to be passed by Congress. The president can implement tariffs.
Was it a nuclear bomb the first 4 years when he dropped tariffs? I mean,
There's nothing
all these things, Trippi, my point is like all of these things are just wonderful, but I was there 2016 through 2020. COVID was just, let's not even talk about it. The most ridiculous thing in the history of the world. That if that doesn't piss you off, you're dead. But 2016 to 2020, I remember. 2020 to now, I remember. And I remember the macro and the micro things about it, the personal things, the business things, the financial things. I know what I saw that round, right? So we're having this specific discussion about tariffs ruining the. Didn't he drop them the first round? Did we have a bad economy? And I'm not trying to
I'm just saying what economists are saying. If he gets
I don't, but these are idiots in classrooms. Like, I mean, I had better professors in community college than university because they were guys who owned businesses, and these other guys are guys who are 40-year business school teachers. And I'm not saying that as a generalization, but I kind of am. Like, I trust real world experience, and I trust people who've done things. Great, an economist is an expert economist, but why wouldn't that have happened already? Like all of this stuff we worry about Trump. We don't have to worry about Trump. We know what we're getting with Trump because we had Trump before. The only thing we're probably getting different this time is probably a little more inside knowledge. So, what were the negatives under Trump? Don't count COVID.
The negatives under Trump were one,
Yeah,
the fact that you'd have to count COVID. He
No,
had
because COVID was
no
like the last
control.
9 months.
But that's unfair
he
because
did have
everything.
control. Because I'm going to tell you how he could control the situation. So just give me a minute. He
Sure.
had Fauci. Just give me a minute because everybody's going to jump in. He didn't like Fauci. He didn't respect Fauci. So he had the presidential opportunity to appoint a COVID liaison to communicate a message, but he would rather stand on stage and belittle Fauci with his facial expressions and then get on the podium and belittle him some more. So there was no direct messaging on how do we handle COVID coming from the White House. So people had no idea. And then amazingly,
But how do you handle something you've never ever encountered before?
Yeah, I think
I
all
think
of
they
how
were
you handle
playing.
it, I hate to say it, how you handle it and how he didn't handle it is how Ron DeSantis handled it. He said, I'm putting the brakes on all this. I'm opening up the state. But Donald Trump never even
But
did
you're
that.
not a fan of Ron DeSantis.
I'm not, but even a stop clock is right twice a day.
Can I ask
Donald
you
Trump,
something? Why is the recent criticism of Trump shutting down stuff for COVID when the current criticism in that time was for him
I didn't say he was shutting
wanting
down
to
something.
keep
I
things
said
shutting down
open?
enough.
Like it's just all
That's
hindsight.
exactly what it was. People forget because
Why are we
they're not
forgetting? It
remembering
was so
accurately.
recent. I'll never forget that. It changed my life, and some things are good and some things are horrible. That's
And-
one of the reasons why we moved down here.
Yeah, I was gonna say you moved down here because of COVID,
But
didn't you?
he
Not
did-
because of, but when we came down Memorial Day 2020, and we could put our masks on and go to a hotel and go to Disney Springs, and I could get a haircut and go back up home to Michigan, and everyone's in a business suit walking around with a bowl cut. Dude, I was someone who was essential. I had to go to work every day, okay? It wasn't an option. It had to be their manufacturing plant. And all you're hearing this whole time is, oh my God, this is awful. We have to do this and that. Well, you know what? If you don't want to participate in life, you have the freedom not to do that. But for me, it's a very extreme statement. So I maybe don't mean this literally, but figuratively, there's a lot of cases where I'd rather be dead. Like it's there to be participated in. People are at risk, right? So those are the people we have to protect. They have to stay home, whatever. There's vaccines, there's all that stuff. Great. But it was one of the reasons why I moved here, because I came down here and it's a red state, and where I live, Orange County is a very blue county. Okay. But things were functioning rationally. And I said, oh, look, two sides that can work together. If I'm going to open a business, it's going to be here, not there. Because I open up there and that happens again, I'm screwed. And I'm not going to let the state screw me. I'll screw myself.
But I just said
Right.
that's not the messaging that came from the White House. That's only the messaging that came from the governor of Florida.
But Trippy, I'm sorry, bro. Like if you came across as an unintelligent person, I guess I would just sit here and feel bad for you silently. But you don't, right? So I there's two questions I have. Question number one, and I know you had no choice but to do it. It wasn't like, because again, it's the go-tos, but I gotta ask. Let's pause. We can circle back to COVID. Let's pause COVID. I think Darren had a fantastic question. What did you dislike about Trump's presidency?
The
With the
fact that
exception
he
of
lacked
COVID.
professionalism, the fact that there was no direction on COVID.
But bro, you keep saying COVID. We're pausing COVID.
Okay,
COVID.
the fact that he pulled out of the Iran deal, the fact that he pulled out of the world climate deal.
But how did that affect you?
Because right now it's affecting us when Iran is selling weapons to Russia when they wouldn't be if they still had an incentive to stay within the world fold. Right now it's going to affect us greatly that Iran just sent over 200 missiles into Israel, and our fuel prices are going to go to probably $11 a gallon if that thing turns into a giant tinderbox. There was a good movement moving forward with Iran to bring them into a law-abiding country.
Yep.
If we were able to continue to keep their economy flowing. The minute
I don't think they would have ever listened.
So, but don't you think that the real underlying thing is, does Iran have money or not? When did Iran get their money? Iran didn't have their money with Trump.
They were complying. They were complying with the agreement. They were.
No,
so
they don't give a crap. They don't care.
They
China
do.
doesn't
You know
care.
why?
They
Because
don't
No. Because if you remember when Bush was president, we put on the nuclear kibosh with them, and we were supposed to send over inspectors, and they were moving them around and hiding distance. They still were making nukes.
That was the biggest complaint.
That
No,
was
that was the
trying to get
biggest
China
complaint.
to comply
that
with
was
the
Iraq.
Green Deal standards. Like they're going to be like, yeah, we'll do it.
No, they were doing it. There was 90% verification in place. World inspectors. First of all, what you're talking about, Zach, was Iraq. What I'm talking
Iraq,
about,
Iran, it's the Middle East.
but that was Iraq. Just to
We
point
can
out,
make
that
them
was
a
Iraq.
Bucky's parking
But
lot.
there was 90% verification and 90% compliance. And there was more. I'm going to tell you why. 50 years ago, when the Ayatollah took American hostages, the other thing the Ayatollah did is grow the Persian race. And those people that were born 50 years ago are now a whole new generation in Iran. And they want peace with the world. So it's again the issue of the unelected religious fanatics running the country that would have gotten pushed out by the new generation if we didn't pull the money and send their economy into the tank. There was a movement moving forward in Iran that could have worked in our favor.
But here's the question.
And so the question, hang on. Daniel's question is, what else did I like about Trump? Two things in particular. He pulled out of the world climate deal and he pulled out of the Iran deal. Two things in particular. The other thing was how he handled COVID. Extremely unprofessional.
That is, but Trippy, you would have handled it terrible too. So would I.
I'll never be elected president.
No, but what I'm saying is, if someone said, "Here's an unknown virus, what should we do?" Well, hey,
according to Obama, they left him 7 binders full of how you handle an epidemic, and apparently they didn't open any of them. They just went by.
Who's they? Because you keep saying that Trump is responsible, and I get it from a leadership standpoint. So that's the thing, right? Like, there's more
orders
than
come
one
from
person.
the top down. The president says, "What do we do? I need direction. Let's sit down and talk." There were 7 binders of how you handle an epidemic in the world.
Did you see those binders?
It's again, we haven't seen. Has
Come on.
anyone seen anything?
Obama said it. I'm still waiting to see his
What if
version of
the
it,
game
so.
plan was exactly what he did? I mean,
He
it's
didn't
just
do anything. I can't imagine 7 binders of blank pages.
It's so
he didn't
crazy
do
to me how
anything.
people's memories flip flop on this, right? Like, because to your point, Derek, everybody was complaining that he wasn't getting vaccines out, he wasn't
Oh
doing
yeah,
this, he wasn't taking it seriously, he was leaving everything open, and now everybody wants to complain. Oh, he shut everything down. He
I didn't
literally
complain.
was pressured into all of the
I
decisions that he
know.
made because of the fact that no matter what he did, they were going to use it as a
I know
political
what I said.
opportunity to make him look nice. But that's what
I
everybody
think
said.
that was the entire point of COVID.
That was the entire plan.
Okay,
This
but what
was
I
in
did,
a way to discredit Trump. That's all it was.
Get him out.
Trump could have got a magical ball writing seal who had magical vaccines that came out of the beach ball and went into everybody's arms and everybody got healed. And PETA would have said, look at how horribly he abuses animals. Not only is he racist, he hates animals and he makes them service the entire country without getting equal. Like, there was nothing
that's
this
not
dude could
what
have done to make
happened,
the
though.
left happy.
But
But
that's
he's
not what
saying
happened.
it could have done
You
it.
didn't get me
Nobody,
there.
you
I
can't
didn't
make
say
everybody
it.
happy.
I praised the one governor that took the leadership, that took the bull by the horns and said, we're opening the state. But I did not praise the president that had no direction.
Well, he
didn't
wasn't
say
the
we're
only-
opening the country.
he
Do you
wasn't
know
the
how
only
much
governor.
crap DeSantis got when he did that, though?
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay, but he did it. And
he
it was
was Satan's
successful.
spawn, man. And then
Not from me.
No, I
went
know,
to
no,
work
no,
without a
I know,
mask.
but
No,
I'm
we
saying,
lived here, so it was great.
I'm
but
saying,
Right.
I'm saying from the left, the progressive ideology, he was Satan's spawn. 2 years later, it's like, oh, everyone there's had COVID and they're pretty immune and good, and that state's thriving. Everyone's go. I wonder why everyone's moving there. I wonder why their economy's so
But
good. Oh my gosh, it must just be luck. I don't know why.
I
Trippy,
said,
honest question
forgot.
for you, bro. Like, where do you, and I'm genuinely curious about this because I'm gonna attempt to get to a point. Question number one is for you, bro. Like, do you think this was just some accidental virus that just happened to get out there? Oops, now the whole world shut down and they got to wear masks that don't work, and everybody knows they didn't work.
I don't
Or
know.
do you think that it was an intentional thing that was put out by somebody with nefarious intents?
So when you say nefarious intent, you're talking about China?
Nefarious and forget who. Do you think well, let's get to who next.
I
Let's
think it
just
was an accident that it got released. And then I think there's an old saying, never waste a good crisis, and corporate world cashed in on it. So you've got a new direction, like auto companies have their vision in whole. They never wanted to have a parking lot full of cars that they had to discount at $3,000. They love the way they're doing business now. And that came from COVID. They're building cars to order. They revamped their entire business.
Can I ask you guys? Do you know what the staple of Chinese culture is? Like the best way to sum it up, and I'm this is very objective. I don't mean this. It's save face. So I actually kind of like I want to agree with everything you said, Trippy. An accident and then never let a crisis go to waste. But same thing with like energy byproduct and green emissions and stuff from China. China, that is the culture to say, oh, we didn't mean to, or this is good. When it's the complete opposite. That's not a Trump is a xenophobic, blah, blah, blah. That's the culture, right? So my point is reporting out of that lab, out of that country to what happened, please take it at no value whatsoever. Trust me, whatever it is, it wasn't how it happened. That's just factual. You know what I'm saying?
Then
So
the
whether
question was it a nefarious act? I can't answer that.
right.
Here's the thing, right? So none of us know the answer to that, right? All of us are speculating.
Was 9/11 nefarious?
I can't answer that, but there's my curiosity racing
Not
through
doing
my
that.
head.
But here's the thing, Trippy. Here's the question that I asked though, right? Like, okay, we don't know. I acknowledge that we don't know, but this is something I'm a big fan of, right? Like we did a whole episode on how do you make decisions, how do you think independently, basic deductive reasoning and survival skills, right? Here's what we do know. The lab where COVID was created was founded and overseen by a guy whose name we all recognize. His name was Fauci.
Right.
The same lab was used to do all of these different things, And then coincidentally, at the exact time, we would start ramping up towards a presidential election to get rid of a president that certain sides of the aisle really, really hated. This thing comes out. Now, I'm thinking it's way bigger than an American election. I think there's a bigger game at play. The question is, how many extremely odd coincidences need to fall into place before we stop asking, is this just a coincidence? Now, that's my question to you. Like, at what point do we start acknowledging, maybe I don't know what's going on, but I'm being naive if I think that there's something fishy going on? And then the next question I ask to that, Trippi, is if there is something fishy, what's the end game? What's the benefit here? Who's pulling those strings into what end?
So if we're gonna say we can't answer the question, was it a nefarious act? If we're gonna say what we have these questions and we can never answer them, answer this question. And I'm going off a little bit, but give me the minute to go off and come back to my point. Presidents, when they have school kids visit the White House, the president, if he wants to make a surprise pop in the room, they tell him, you've got 2 minutes. They've got somebody standing there in the room to walk him out after 2 minutes of saying hi to the kids. How did a president have 9.5 minutes to read a book when our country was under attack? Hence the question, was 9/11 a nefarious action? But then goes the question, was Trump in on this? And do we know the answer to that? And you say, I always refer back to Trump. I'm not referring back to Trump. I'm not saying he was in on this. I'm just saying, how many questions do we have left unanswered? But then begs the question, we went into Afghanistan for 20 years. The original goal was to catch bin Laden. We were there literally 12 years, 13 years before we caught bin Laden in Pakistan. And so I've always said it's all because it's a money train. And then Trump once even said the generals are cashing in on Afghanistan. He said it. I can't quote it, but I remember him saying it. Do we really know how much of this crap is staged? Do we really know how much of this crap is literally planned in detail?
We know it's all incentivized.
All incentivized. That's a great word that I was groping for.
Or maybe, we know it's all monetarily influenced. Every current conflict we have, there's a monetary influence, and there is a way to plug the monetary gain to stop it all.
How do you do it? I would love to know the way.
I don't know how. I just know that. For me, Russia has to run out of money. Iran has to run out of money. China's got to be pressured out of money. Okay.
Here's my question.
I don't know how to do that.
Right.
You figure it out.
But I know there's incentive for this to continue. I know there's incentive for that money to go.
The biggest thing people
the only thing I was going to
is,
say before I interrupt anybody, I just don't want to miss this opportunity to make this point. I watched Lindsey Graham bang his hands on his Senate desk and say, we're going back to Afghanistan. I've heard all the theories that it was a terrible pullout, but why would we ever go back?
We wouldn't. We would just get our base.
Why would a senator on the Senate?
Everybody says that war is money.
Right. So you see this man.
Well, for example, that guy could get lobbyist money from Lockheed Martin, whatever, right? Someone who manufactures for the war. And that is, I'm not, that's not an allegation, but I'm pretty sure it's pretty close to that.
Sure, it is.
How many times have I said that senators need to wear NASCAR jackets with all their sponsors on it? So
they just need term limits. And
that too.
This is not a career position. This is a servant. Yeah. This is a servanthood of gratitude.
I know, Daniel. You
for everything for a limited amount of time. That's all there is to it. That needs to happen immediately. Get rid of the crap. Because this hurts so many people here, over there. This is ridiculous. It doesn't matter what side of the aisle you're on. This is absolutely unnecessary, uncalled for. Doesn't need to be happening right now. There are ways to end it now. There are ways to prevent it for the future. And when you have,
we don't know the ways. Other than
we don't know the ways, but collectively we do know the ways. Not between us collectively, but as a government, right? As a collective branch of government, we do know the ways, and we do know the reasons why.
Called by making America great again.
Here's my question, right? Here's
make politicians broke again.
Well, there you go. My guess is that everybody here is Christian. Yes.
Yep.
Okay. So I'm going to
Me,
go
according to Zach.
I
not you according to Zach, but yeah, I mean,
Well,
Zach's
he's
not.
voting for Kamala, so we don't know. But yeah, keep
It's
going.
Right.
unclear, unknown, right? We don't know your political pronouns yet. Um, here's where I'm gonna go crazy. I'm gonna become a crazy person, right, with my little theory here for a couple of minutes. But this is what's interesting for me, especially for believers. And Zach will tell you, right? Zach has wanted to step into the parking lot with me sometimes for in the past for my scriptural declarations of things. Why? Because I tend to just be the type that looks at the world differently. I look at life differently. I just pay attention to what other people aren't paying attention to, right? What's Mark Twain say? When you find yourself on the side of the majority, it's time to seriously reconsider your position. When everybody's over here, I'm looking over here. Just how I'm built, right? Um, let's just take this crazy idea that hypothetically, for a minute, Christianity is a real thing, and the Bible that Christians believe is also real. Well, if these two hypothetical examples are true, then my question is, how on earth do the Christians who believe in this Bible not see what's obvious? Like, I don't get how all of the questions that even you guys just asked aren't overwhelmingly obvious to you. Why? Because if you believe in this book, hypothetically, the book actually tells you exactly what's happening right now. This is not a mystery. This is not a money thing, right? It's a prophecy thing. If you believe in this extremely hypothetical situation, right? Because the Bible literally tells us that in the end days, there is going to be a one world government. There are going to be a couple of nations who do not participate in that one world government. That's going to lead to a whole different set of issues. Okay, well, if I use my brain and some basic elementary school level deductive reasoning, what that tells me is in this extremely hypothetical story, this book promises that someday in the future, all of these powerful nations were going to get to the point where things were so bad they had to come together to form a one world government, right? We all know this to be true. Okay, cool. Well, in this same hypothetical story, we also know that there's a lot of descriptions of what look like a lot of nations that we know. One of the descriptions that's not included is one that describes the United States of America. Very interesting as well. But we know that there is going to be a bunch of signs that let you know you're getting close to those end days, right? It tells us that. And I think most anybody would believe that a lot more signs, prophetically and otherwise, right? Israel being reestablished as a nation, Jerusalem being reestablished as a capital, that generation will not pass before the end has come. All of the other things that have happened, there's a lot of information that could, in this hypothetical scenario, lead us to believe we are entering in these last days. If that's true, here's what we know. Without a shadow of a doubt, in that time, there will be a one world government. And if that's soon, are we stupid enough to think that's just going to poof magically happen one day? Or do we have to use our brain to acknowledge the fact that there are people on the other side of, do we think, and I ask this to all the Christians, do y'all think, if you believe that book, do y'all think that everybody's just going about their lives, voting to become a politician or deciding to become a politician, going for votes, and everything's just surrounded by money? And then all of a sudden, a rapture happens, or the end time happens, or we get into the tribulation, and then poof, Satan enters everybody's bodies, and now all of a sudden they change direction and have a new plan because demons are driving them? Or is it possible that the side that is the opposition to God himself has been working on this plan for millennia, and they already have the people in place? They already have the plans in place. They have been using geopolitical decisions for generations to play this thing out. If this is true, when we are in the end days, the Antichrist, according to this very hypothetical situation, is already alive and getting prepped in the background. We have possibly seen this dude on social media right now. All of the political leaders are making decisions to what end? To put the world geopolitically into a position that not only is a one world government feasible to be functional at the flip of a switch, but also be able to position all potential opposing forces who would be against going into that one world government, putting them into place so they don't have anything to fight. If that's true, then what we're looking at makes perfect sense. Because what is one gigantic block in the current world that we know right now to a one world government? This little country, free nation, a couple hundred years old, called the United States of America. And if this free nation, who is filled with free people who are strong and independent, are going to be on this planet, you're going to have to do something really special to get them to bend, submit their freedom, and fold in to a globalist agenda. Well, how do you do that? You play the long game. You slowly desensitize people. You slowly take away the American spirit. You make people no longer love this country. You start a divide and conquer thing. You devalue the dollar. You put the economics status of the country in such a bad situation that they gets to the point where it's so bad in that country, they have no choice but to fold in to a one world government. If in this hypothetical situation, that's the plan, then guys, that should change everything you see about what's going on. Now, Afghanistan looks completely different. This is the lens that I look through it from in this extremely hypothetical situation. Why has the left and the right forever Middle East, Middle East, Middle East, Middle East, Middle East, money to the Middle East, money to the Middle East, money to the Middle East? One guy comes out and wants to pull out of that. Everybody hates him. The first thing the other team does the second he gets out, put all the money that he stopped for the last 4 years back and then some. If we look at this from a Christian perspective, it makes perfect sense, all of the decisions that's being made, because they're trying to destroy the country. It's not money. It's not lifelong career politicians. It's the powers that be understanding that America needs to disappear if biblical prophecy has to come to pass. And they're moving the pieces in the background to 100% make that happen. And they got us fooled to believe that it's Democrat versus Republican. I don't think it's that at all. I think it's biblical prophecy playing out before our eyes. And even Christians are being fooled to believe that it's something different.
Well, the four of us are not Democrat versus Republican. The four of us are very logical. Zach calls me a liberal. I say I'm center right. I actually think for the most part, you guys are center right. That's not division. That's full out America. We disagree, but we can sit here and have this conversation without shouting, without making hateful comments about one another. Now, as far as the one world taking America out of the equation, is something I quote Warren Buffett. If you want to make the best bet of your life ever, make 100% all-in bet on America. Because it's not going. Now, it's going to have its problems. It's going to have its false starts. It's going to have its mega failures. It's going to have...
Warren Buffett's texting him like saying, thanks, bro. I appreciate it.
No, my wife's in Colombia. I'm trying to text.
Your wife's
Give him
in
the rest
Colombia.
of the
Is she
script.
in Argentina or Colombia?
Well, it's a layover. Whatever. What do you call that? Like
A layover.
layover. So, and I quote him because I think it's something great he said. Place your all-in bet on America. Now, if you're going to get philosophical, biblical, and I'm not saying philosophical in a condescending way, I'm saying biblical. If you're going to quote prophecy, if you're going to quote scripture, that could all be so. But if we're living on this earth today and we're having this conversation and we're saying, I don't think America's going nowhere. That's what I'm saying. And I don't know that America will be the one world leader. And I don't think there will be one world because we're entirely different cultures everywhere. But if you were to say, if the world, if you look at people as a whole, not as governments, but people, they envy our lifestyle. So do I think we have a great system? No, I think we have an elitist system. And I've always said Democrats can't fix that with all their social programs. They're making it worse with their social programs. What could fix it is, and I talk about it just in my own vague terms, is information, is education. And we talk about it briefly. Some governors are talking about teaching kids how to process or balance a checkbook. People need to know how to buy a house. And really improve the American system to the point where it's not filtering down to 1% of the wealth, 99% of the wealth being managed by 1% of the population. There is a way to spread that wealth through education. We keep talking about BlackRock buying up 40% of the homes. And people should still be able to buy a home like they used to. And I don't know what's going to change that. But if we're going to talk about the world collapsing and falling into one place, I don't know much about that. If we're going to talk about the American system being terrible under any government, no, it's not. Some people
It's
prefer
really
some.
interesting.
Tell me.
No, just that's really interesting to me. And now, I mean this genuinely. I'm not trying to be condescending. It's just very interesting to me, right? Because my stance when I became a believer 2003, it's very simple for me. It's either real or it's not. If it's not real, no need to waste my time. If it is real, I'm gonna do it all the way, or I'm not gonna do it at all. Like, this is a very simple proposition for me. I don't understand the concept of saying, yeah, I believe God's real, but that's just like that's out there somewhere. I'm gonna keep living my life and not really pay attention to that. Because for me, if the cheat codes to the game are in the book that teaches me how to play the game, I'm just making the game harder by not reading it. It doesn't make sense to me.
Well, I think Zach
So
makes that same point, but what I just, and I can only say it in the simplest of terms, I just don't see it.
fair enough. Fair
I
enough.
can't,
Derek,
I
what's your
can't,
thoughts on this, bro?
so
Am I
many
do I
times,
sound crazy to you?
what?
No, I was that no, sorry, go ahead. I just was wondering if maybe because I haven't talked to Derek about this, and I didn't know if maybe he thinks I sound crazy on this topic as well.
Not at all. And me and Zach have the same discussion, and I leave off every time we finalize the conversation. I just don't see it. But
It's
then,
very deep.
well, Zach gets very detailed.
I think it's very I think the I think it's true. And I'll say this. If you talk about a shadow government, right? If you talk about powers that be beyond what our elected officials are, world alliances, all that type of stuff, popular mainstream opinion is just going to say you're a lunatic.
No,
Okay.
I don't say that at all.
So no,
I
I'm not saying you
that.
are. I'm not saying you are, but
We also believe a virgin gave birth to some dude who died and then came back to life and
right,
then gave us all
right,
through life with his
which is
blood.
you're logical. That's very hard to process. It has to be
Sure.
an actual conviction and a faith because you can't prove some of these things that happen. That's the point of it, right? But I will say that man, I lost my train of thought. I was just thinking when you were speaking that, if you were to come out and you were to say these things, if you were to make a post on X and you had some, the channel, the mainstream media respond, it would just be like, this guy's insane. The fact that I could think you're crazy, but I'm not gonna devalue or degrade you for it. But the fact that there's a whole side and wall of popular opinion and belief that will that's to me, that's why I'm a skeptical person. That's why I've lost a lot of trust. That's why, when you say that, let me be honest, I haven't thought of half of it. But I look at everything that's going on in the world today and I'm like, dude, I'm sorry, dude. I don't have to be like, it's like your gut. It just doesn't lie, right? Like, something's wrong with you and you go to the best doctors in the world and they say, oh, your CT scan was good. Well, when you finally end up at Mayo, they say, well, here's the truth. Like, we just don't know. We've done every test that's in the entire world. So your body is telling you something. I guess you have to figure it out. Anybody can try to prove anything. Anybody can try to tell you something's real or not real. But if you feel it, if you can see it, just like we're being told by mainstream media that our lives are great, the economy's wonderful. And my wife and I go to the grocery store for two people for a week. It's like $350, and it's like Walmart, dude. Or like,
Dude,
my gas is $110. Like, dude, no, I'm sorry. That's what's real, right? I don't care what economists tell me. I don't care what media tells me. I don't care what I don't care. That's not right. That's wrong. I know that's wrong. I don't need anything factual to know that's wrong. I have enough benchmarks to tell me in my gut to intuitively react to that as being the wrong thing. And it's the same with a lot of stuff that's going on, at home domestically, but then overall greater um, worldview as well. It doesn't matter. We're left, we're right. We bounce things back and forth, but I don't think anyone in this virtual room would disagree that there are major underlying things going on in events like COVID or the EU or BRICS or these deals or these that are just absolutely vulgar, vile, and just up to no good.
Salacious.
Nefarious.
Nefarious.
Very.
Yes.
You should watch that movie.
Salacious, nefarious. We just out here spitting this level
We're
of
just spitting. We're
vocabulary.
just gonna
All
say
right,
any
guys.
word. We're
All
gonna
right.
do like
Hold
this.
on,
We're
I'm
gonna do.
getting
Hey, we're gonna do like the Step Brothers thing. We're gonna go.
There was
Portfolios,
there's a
whiteboard.
thing called Toastmasters, and they teach you how to public speak. And they use
Or you
there's
can
a
just
word
go
of the
to
day.
you
have
can
to
just go to danielquijano.com and go follow his
That
course.
it's Closers Collective. That's what we were doing it on the podcast last night because a lot of people notice what I do. I teach communication. Like I teach sales a little bit differently than the average person. So everybody's like, if you want to sound like JD Vance on a debate, go to closerscollective.com.
Did he go to your course?
It may be. I don't know. I gotta check.
Absolutely, it was
Oh.
written all over Hillbilly Elegy.
to.
He gave a special acknowledgement to
Did-
Daniel.
That's
and
it.
Did
That's
hey,
it.
did you watch that movie?
I've watched it and read the book. Yeah,
Yeah.
I read a lot,
enjoyed it.
Zach. I
Did
actually-
you watch it, Daniel?
What?
Hillbilly Elegy.
No, I did not. I've never even heard of that. Am I missing something?
It's yes, the
JD
JD Vance
it's
story.
It's what made
Oh.
JD Vance kind of a public figure. He wrote it maybe eight years ago or so, and Netflix turned it into.
I didn't watch it or read it. I watched
not.
it.
It's essentially the concept of the American working class being hollowed out, being sold out. Where we used to have industrial towns in the Midwest that are now, we used to have American manufacturing in towns where those plants are shut down. They require it's a story of his family. He grew up in Appalachia, moved to Ohio, was in a blue collar town, and was actually raised Democrat and raised kind of I won't say on the system or the government, but just kind of low income, dealing with drug issues with his mother and stuff, and then how he kind of evolved and he went to the Marines, he went to law school, did everything kind of the hard work way, and it's kind of brought him to where he is now. First opposing Trump, now kind of understanding what some of those concepts are behind it. So I don't know. I'm not able to say if I liked it or disliked it. I can say that the book was I didn't really put it down. I just read it. And so it does read, and it does kind of make a lot of sense. I don't think it's anything
Interesting.
I don't think it's anything like
I have to
super
agree with you
enlightening,
on
but it makes sense. It makes sense. And it's I grew up in automotive manufacturing too. Okay. So a lot of my time was spent on the east side of Michigan, seeing Detroit get hollowed out, right? In the early 2000s, when everything went to import, went overseas, and they shut down all the plants. Wyoming, Michigan, they shut down the second largest metal stamping plant for General Motors, the second most efficient in the entire country to outsource it. And that was 1 million square feet. And it actually the city of Wyoming went from 70,000 people of incredible middle-class wealth, like union jobs back in the frickin' 80s, making 30, $40 an hour, to just a freaking kind of a hood, no tax money, no nothing. So I have a little bit of understanding where he's coming from there. And it kind of lets you see like who he is, and kind of helps you understand when you say, well, how come he's changed his opinion, this and that. You kind of see where he's come from and how that happened.
Interesting.
So it's good. I mean, it's good. It's a good read.
we watched the movie, and I agree with you. We can't say it was great or was bad. It was just his life story. It was interesting. It was educational to see where somebody came up and how they became who they were. Was your family in the automotive industry? Yeah.
Grandfather owned a business, spent the first 20 years of my career, age 12 to 32 there. Fastener manufacturing, cold rolled steel. So we would supply metal stampers and plastic components, people that made side mirrors for vehicles and door, all those things that would get assembled and eventually go to the automotive plant on the other side of the state. Yeah. And man, I'll tell you what, in the frickin' 90s, especially mid to late 90s, man, it was bumping, man. The steel industry was bumping. We were at Pistons games in the suite. I mean, it was fun. There was blue collar wealth. It was just some of the best times, right? Even in the NBA, you had the Bulls and the bad boys.
That's how I know you're old enough to remember that era, because you said it was bumping.
It was, dude, it was banging, man. It was on fleek. I don't know what that means.
I heard it one time
I
from a
think you
kid.
used it good. I think it was good. I think we're good.
I can just relate to a lot of what he's seen in terms of that. And it's sad, man. There's so many. I spent a lot of time driving around the state of Michigan for sales, and I mean, you wouldn't believe all these semi-rural towns that were built around manufacturing that, some are still okay and doing well, and some have been acquired by global companies, but more than half are just smoked out, drug-ridden, crappy little insane clown posse towns, man. There ain't nothing there.
Insane
So
clown posse.
so it's good. I would read the book. I'd read it for sure. Easy read.
Well, it's Pennsylvania's the same way. I mean, there was a lot of steel plants there that went gone, and look at West Virginia and
I'm just gonna tell you guys one thing though.
Indiana.
So all those things that went gone at the
when Trump was in office. Yeah, we know.
initiative.
Yeah.
of the
Trump is the
Republican
reason that
president,
manufacturing went
at
overseas.
the initiative of a Republican president called Richard Nixon when he opened the floodgates to cheap labor in China. Just letting you know. So when we think
Rumor
about
has it Trump was actually the guy who built Watergate, right? Like the whole
Yes.
gate. He put the water in
hotel,
there.
He put the water in the gate. Did he put the
Trump
water in the
actually-
water? He
Trump
put the gate in
actually
the water.
started all the manufacturing in China.
Yeah. I actually heard he was the one who assassinated Kennedy.
See, you guys are accusing me of bringing Trump's name up all the time. I brought up Nixon. I'm just saying that was.
I'm too
actually
young
heard-
to have an opinion on Nixon. So
wasn't
that's
Trump?
awful.
Didn't he shoot Lincoln too?
He did shoot Lincoln. He was in the theater.
He's a
right?
time traveler.
It is true.
Or is it
That
Barron
hair,
who's the
man,
time
that
traveler?
hair.
I'm
Have you
just
gone
saying,
down that rabbit hole yet,
this
guys?
last 44 seconds, I haven't said Trump's name once. I haven't
You're
said
not
Trump's name once.
responsible.
We're
I'm
very
not
Wait,
there's-
responsible.
Have
we're
you
proud
guys
of you,
heard?
but-
I know that Zach has. Have you guys actually looked into or heard the whole Trump time traveler thing?
No.
That's
Oh
what I was
my
just
God.
talking about. Have you gone
Total
down that
waste of
rabbit
time.
hole?
No. Derek, I promise you, bro, if you got an extra 30 minutes, like you're on the toilet and it's just one of those ones, right?
That's a
Like
long
you just
day.
hanging out, you need
That's
to
a
get
long
away.
deuce. I'm
It is a
telling you.
long it is, right? But sometimes you need them. Bro, I'm telling you, I think that's probably how it happened with me. I'm starting going into this thing. They're like Trump time traveler. I'm like, get out of here.
I'm gonna look
It's
that up.
like, should I give the 30-second elevator?
Do it.
Yeah.
All right. Here's the situation, right? So
Sure.
Donald Trump.
Is it Donald or Barron?
No. So okay, let me go a different question, right? You guys have heard of Nikola Tesla, right?
Yep.
Nikola Tesla was said to have discovered many things that we are just discovered, like wireless electricity. We are not using wireless electricity. He had figured out wireless electricity a long time ago. Many people believe the reason why he got shot down was because he was going to disrupt pretty much all of the industries that were popular at the time, which is why the powers that be stopped funding him. He ended up passing away, sad in a hotel. Well, I don't know if you guys knew this. Did you know that when he passed away, the FBI went in and collected all of his information to see if there was anything of note worth sharing with the government? Did you guys know that?
No.
So this is something that happened, right? Go in there, say, hey, just gather all this stuff. Let us know if there's anything worth knowing. Person goes in there, they gather it, say, nope, nothing worth seeing here, nothing to see here. And then the story is about it. Very, very interesting. You guys didn't know this happened. Fun little fact about the person who went and collected it, the guy responsible. Was it Fred? I think it's Fred. Fred or Frank, something. Trump. It was Donald Trump's uncle. Went and gathered all the information, right? Said there was nothing to see there. But there were a lot of people who actually believed that Tesla had all of this technology, potentially including time travel information, right? But that's about where that ends. Here's what's interesting. There is a whole book series about, I think it's The Marvelous Adventures of Baron Trump.
That's what I saw when I Googled. I'm like, where is this?
So the book was written in the 1800s. It's about a kid named Baron Trump, who lives in New York City in something like the Trump Tower. It talks
Is it the
about
travel and adventures of Little Baron or Baron Trump's marvelous underground journey?
There's two books. I believe it's both of them, but I
Okay.
know The Marvelous Adventures. Long story short, it's the stories about how that kid's, like, it talks about an election. His dad runs for president. The building where he lives gets like attacked by protesters. Like that
Really?
book in the 1800s describes Trump's election to presidency almost to a T. The picture looks like, dude, it's trippy.
Well, the name Baron's spelled wrong, so it can't be right.
It can't be right because they
Can't
spelled
be
it
right.
right. Now,
They
it's
spelled it
a
wrong.
fun thing. I mean, who knows, right? Like at the end of the day, I'm not out here, cashing my chips in that Trump is time traveling, but it is crazy
That's how he
interesting.
knew how. That's how he knew to move his head.
1893, first published
Yep,
in 1893. Now I know why you haven't read Hillbilly Elegy. You're spending your time on other stuff.
that's it.
He's guided by a man called Don. His
Dude,
adventures take him to Russia. Well, this is all
dude,
making a lot of sense now,
it's
Dan.
all making it out. Nobody time travels.
That's why. That's why Trump.
Nobody knew.
That's why.
Nobody knew. I had this down 100 years ago. It was
That's why.
fine.
That's why Trump
Everything, it
tilted
was
his head at the
perfect. It
right
was
moment.
great.
It was huge. It was bigly.
It was bigly.
It was bigly.
Biden ruined it all.
All myself.
So there you go, Trippy. Now we know what happened, right? Trump actually did do all of those horrible things.
All right, Trippy wins this one, I guess.
That's it. You win. Trump's the problem.
Sometimes I got to be the winner. I can't.
Yeah.
Even a broken clock is right twice a day.
Thank you. Now they're quoting me. That's it. That's the true sign of a winner. They're quoting me now.
So, I know, Derek, you got stuff to do.
Yep.
You're a busy businessman. But all joking aside, oh, go ahead. What are you gonna say, Trippy?
I got to get to the kids too.
Yeah. No. That's why I'm wrapping this up.
I didn't know that's what
Let
you
me
were
wrap
doing.
up the big shoe. No, on a serious note, everybody, if you're in the Orlando area, check out Turbo Tint for all your tinting needs. And if you're in the Albuquerque area or the World Wide Web, check out Daniel. Closers
Collective.
Closers Collective.
Just happen to want to get better at
.com.
communicating and closing deals, I guess, maybe.
Closer Collective. Could you make your URL a little longer next time, please?
Probably. I could try.
I know
I'll
you
do
would.
it for you.
Thank
I know
you.
you can't. You don't read good, so
I don't read better than
I
good.
think it could be the Big League Closer Collector.
it's going to be Bigly Closer.
The Bigly Closer.
Biglycloser.com. That's actually, I'm disappointed I didn't actually take that one. Missed opportunity.
It's probably easy enough to buy today if you want.
I'm
Once
just
you
I'll
go-
saying.
buy it right now.
You can have the URL. I'll let you have it. Go ahead. It's Bigly.
Go ahead. Just pay me royalties. Just pay
I'll
me
take a
royalties.
little percentage.
We're going to call it Make Conversations Great Again.com. MCGA.
Dude, that would be awesome. Wear red hats and have that on there. You know how many fights people would start with you?
That's
Let's do
it.
it.
That guy's the worst. He's
I'm
horrible.
thinking about
Oh,
ordering. I have to get everybody's address so I can mail them out.
that's right. That's right. It's on the web. You don't have to get people's address anymore.
Oh,
Everything's there. It's the internet.
You know you're old when you say it's on the web.
On
I
the
don't think anyone says it's on the web
interwebs.
anymore, bro.
On the
World Wide Web.
interwebs.
It's on the web. It's on the
Damn.
Facebook.
Daniel,
online.
I will always be old. Just remember that.
yeah.
Because I'm older.
I'll always
Anyway, guys, this was a fun show. It went, I guess, differently than we thought it. But that's great. That's why this show is so cool, because we fly by the seat of our pants. And we appreciate you guys coming on. We love having you as guests. We want to do it more often. Bigly.
I'm just saying, hey, I'm just putting it out there. I'm
Very
good
enjoyable.
Friday if anybody else has any time.
You're what?
I'm available Friday to do it again.
Oh, that's right. He'll be home. He'll want to do another shoe.
Yeah, if anybody's
We'll do a recap. Maybe you and I'll do a recap on the debate.
okay.
Have you
Or if
watched it? Did you watch it?
I'm gonna today.
See, I
have
knew you didn't watch it
things
yet.
to take care of and work to do.
The liberal, he just read all the
I-
liberal news, how great Walls
I
did.
work. What do liberals? They don't do. They don't work.
You are the true liberal who does work. I'll give you
How
that
do you
much.
know a person's a vegan? They'll tell you.
No, all joking aside, guys, thank you again very, very much. I love this. This is awesome. I love your insight and I appreciate your guys' time. And you out there watching, thank you very much. We love you. And we can't wait to do the next show for you. I don't know what it'll be about, but I'm sure it'll be bigly great. Signing
Bigly.
out. Peace.
Thanks,
Peace.
guys. Thanks for joining us. It was awesome.